Good day, everyone. President Trump just made a huge announcement about Nigeria and the fight against ISIS, and you need to hear this. He's talking about how the US worked with the Nigerian government to launch Christmas Day strikes against ISIS fighters. This is massive news for our country and shows the kind of military cooperation happening between Nigeria and America right now. If you want to stay updated on breaking news like this, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Let me play you what the president actually said at the National Prayer Breakfast, and then we'll break down what this really means for Nigeria.
No administration in modern history has done more to confront the plight of persecuted Christians around the world than we have. With us, it's a mission. It's actually a mission. On Christmas Day, in close coordination with the government of Nigeria, we worked with them, but they got to get tougher. I ordered powerful airstrikes to decimate the ISIS terrorists who have been slaughtering Christians in that country by the thousands. It's not even believable. We hit them so hard, they still don't know what the hell happened. And we were going to do it on a different day. I said, no, do it on Christmas, so they understand it. Remember, Christmas was, when I ran in 2015, when I announced, I said we're going to bring back Christmas because the word Christmas was almost gone, and we did. People use Christmas anymore. We brought back the word Christmas. They didn't want to use it, and we're using it again. But I specifically told Pete, I said, hit him on Christmas Day. Not earlier and not later, right, Pete? And man, did he hit him. So then we hit him again recently. We hit him again.
So, there you have it, straight from President Trump himself. He's saying the United States worked directly with our Nigerian government to coordinate military strikes against ISIS on Christmas Day. Now, let me tell you why this is such a big deal and what it means for all of us watching from Nigeria and around the world. First of all, the timing of these strikes is very significant. Christmas Day is one of the most important holidays for Christians globally, and ISIS and other terrorist groups have historically targeted Christian communities during religious celebrations. By launching strikes on Christmas Day, this was clearly a strategic decision to send a message that terrorist groups cannot operate freely even during major holidays. It shows that the Nigerian military and US forces were actively working together to protect civilians and disrupt terrorist operations when attacks might have been planned. The fact that Trump mentioned this specifically at the National Prayer Breakfast also tells us something important. The National Prayer Breakfast is a major religious and political event in Washington where leaders from around the world gather. By highlighting Nigeria in this setting, Trump is putting our country on the international stage in a positive light, showing Nigeria is a key partner in the global fight against terrorism. This is good for Nigeria's international reputation because it positions us as a serious ally in counter-terrorism efforts rather than just a country struggling with security challenges. Now, let's talk about what this cooperation actually involves. When Trump says we worked with the Nigerian government, he's talking about intelligence sharing, planning, and possibly direct military support. The US has been providing various forms of assistance to Nigeria for years in the fight against groups like Boko Haram and ISIS West Africa. This includes training for Nigerian soldiers, sharing satellite intelligence about terrorist movements, providing equipment, and sometimes even drone support for surveillance and strikes. These Christmas Day strikes were likely the result of weeks or months of intelligence gathering where both countries tracked ISIS positions and planned the operation together. For those of you who might not know, ISIS West Africa is a very real threat in Nigeria, particularly in the northeast like Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states. This group split from Boko Haram several years ago and has been conducting attacks on military bases, villages, and even humanitarian workers. They control territory in some areas and have caused massive displacement of civilians. Thousands of people have died because of their activities, and millions have been forced to flee their homes. So when we hear about strikes against ISIS, we're talking about operations designed to weaken their ability to carry out these devastating attacks. The cooperation between Nigeria and the US on this also reflects the broader relationship between our countries. Despite some tensions over the years on various issues, the US sees Nigeria as strategically important in West Africa. We're the most populous country in Africa with the largest economy on the continent, and what happens in Nigeria affects the entire region. If terrorist groups were allowed to operate unchecked in Nigeria, they could spread to neighboring countries and destabilize the whole area. That's why the US has a strong interest in helping Nigeria succeed in these counter-terrorism operations. What I find interesting is how Trump chose to announce this. He could have kept it quiet or mentioned it in a purely military context, but instead he brought it up at a prayer breakfast, framing it in moral and religious terms. This suggests he wants to emphasize the protection of Christian communities and position himself as a leader fighting against groups that target Christians. It's also a way of showing his administration is taking action on the world stage and building coalitions with international partners. For Nigerians watching this, the key question is what impact these strikes will actually have on the ground. Military operations alone don't solve the terrorism problem. We need a comprehensive approach that includes better governance in affected areas, economic development so young people have alternatives to joining extremist groups, and reconciliation programs for former fighters who want to leave these organizations. These strikes can weaken ISIS militarily, but unless we address the root causes that allow these groups to recruit and operate, they'll keep coming back. We should also ask questions about accountability and civilian safety. When military strikes happen, especially in areas where terrorists mix with civilian populations, there is always a risk of innocent people getting hurt. The Nigerian government and US military need to be transparent about these operations and ensure they are following international law and minimizing harm to civilians. Our people in the Northeast have suffered enough already, and we can't let them become collateral damage in the fight against terrorism. This announcement also comes at a time when Trump is focusing heavily on foreign policy and America's role in global conflicts. He's been talking about various military operations and trying to show strength on the international stage. Nigeria is just one piece of that larger picture, but it's significant that he chose to highlight this partnership. It could mean we'll see more cooperation between our countries going forward, which could bring both benefits and challenges depending on how it's managed.